I did it. I bought an S2000. Oh, it's all mine. Oh, I'm so excited to do this video. I'm so excited to finally own one of these cars. It has been amazing owning it the last month. I'm super excited to continue driving it. Let's go through why I bought it and a little bit about the S2000 right now. This is a 2007 Honda S2000, an AP2 version of this car with 115, now about 116,000 miles that I picked up in Boise. And I'm super excited because this was right within my budget, a little earlier than I wanted to buy it, but a great car, mechanically sound. I had a shop review it and go through it mechanically before I bought it. Which I was super excited about. They didn't find anything really to be concerned about, just some general maintenance items it needed. I didn't want to buy an S2000 that needed a bunch of work right to start, or right at the beginning of ownership. I wanted to be able to enjoy the car and just do general maintenance and upkeep for the next year or two before I decided to do anything to it. And so that was pretty important to me, and so I was lucky enough to find one that mechanically needed nothing. Cosmetically, it's not in perfect shape, but it's in pretty good shape. It's a 6 out of 10 VIN car, so 3 VINs are missing up front. I believe this VIN, and there's a frame support. I believe that VIN is missing, or it might be the hood. I have to double check that. For those of you that don't know, specific parts on the S2000 are actually also have VIN numbers associated with them. So there's 10 of those parts, and this car is 6 out of 10. The 10th one that's missing is the trunk lid. It's a different VIN number. This car wasn't a wreck, even though it's a clean title, so it was a low impact wreck according to Carfax, impacting the front bumper, headlight, and the frame support. The shop that went through the car said there was nothing wrong with the frame, and it looked like the frame support was in there secure and that everything, all of the panels and everything had been put together well. The biggest problem, again, was cosmetically. It's clearly been resprayed, either the whole car or multiple pieces of the car more than once. There is this really annoying discoloration where they did a terrible job blending it, and this isn't the prior owner's fault, it's whoever owned it before him. Right here where it goes from very dark red to the normal color, and it doesn't really match with the hood, so it's kind of weird the way that it kind of pieces together, and there are some chips and scrapes and little pieces that are missing out of the paint. I'd probably give it like a 5 out of 10 because of the blending, maybe a 6.5 out of 10 without the blending issue, but again, I didn't really care about that. The prior owner had the stock wheels powder coated. It's not really a color I love with this red, even though I do love bronze wheels, mainly just because it is the stock rim. And so I do plan to powder coat them back to stock after the fact. For modifications, the car only has a upgraded clutch, powder coated rims, and an NVIDIA N1 exhaust, and an upgraded cold air intake. I don't plan to do anything to this car for, like I said, a year or two, and that's primarily just to give it time and to enjoy it and to replenish my budget before I go into it. There are 2 things I have done so far. This exhaust is super loud. I don't mind it at all. Getting on it, turning it on, driving it mostly. It's at highway speed. The drone inside the cabin is insane. And so I did put silencers on the exhaust until I can upgrade to a Tanabe Now Revel medallion exhaust, because I've heard that one doesn't have any drone at that RPM. And so they look awful. I can't stand the way those stupid silencers look, but it makes a huge difference at driving speed. I have a really annoying exhaust tip that rattles because one of the rivets is loose. But it is more bearable now. I can drive it at 80 on the highway and actually hear myself think, so I'm actually really enjoying that. I did change the shifter knob. because the shifter knob that was on it was massive, like massive, and it made me feel extremely inadequate, and I'm not used to handling anything of that size at all. So the prior owner must have been very good at handling something that size, but certainly not me. So I got a more appropriately sized and adequate shifter knob. I did an OEM Honda Civic Type R knob. It was on sale, so it was the same price as the knockoff ones. Now, why an S2000? Well, a couple different reasons. When I was looking for my first ever manual fun car to own, I had a couple of parameters I wanted to set. So one, it had to be rear-wheel drive, and that was primarily just because I've owned front-wheel drive cars, I've owned all-wheel drive cars, I've owned four-wheel drive SUVs, but I really wanted a rear-wheel drive sports car, just because I haven't had one. I wanted it to be a 6-speed manual. I wanted it to be a convertible, and I wanted it to be reliable and fun. And so and affordable. And so when I narrowed that down, there wasn't really a ton out there except for a Honda S2000. Now you could go Miata, you could go, which I don't know if that is a 6-speed or not. You could go a couple other routes. I understand, I'm sure people will tell me those in the comments, but the big reason why I went with the S2000 was just because I've fallen in love with them. I've done episodes with like 3 or 4 of these now. I've seen or been around a ton of them lately in the last year or two, and I just really, really, really fell in love with the motor in these, the VTEC, the fact that it's a full 50-to-50 weight ratio all the way through. You basically sit inside the frame when you drive this thing, which is unbelievable. I wasn't looking for anything crazy fast. I didn't want to be in something where I felt out of control, and that's probably because this is the first manual car I've ever owned. And so that's pretty much why I went with the S2000, is because, I mean, look at it. Look at the lines for a roadster, for a car in general. It's just a beautiful, beautiful car. And I'm really excited to own it. Let's take it for a spin. So there are two very distinct types of S2000s. There are the AP1s and the AP2s. This is what Honda called them. AP1s go from the year 2000 through 2003, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you will. And the AP2s go from 2004 to 2009. The AP2s have a different motor in them and a few other tweaks as well that I don't know off the top of my head. But the motor being the primary difference, the AP1s from 2000 to 2003 redline at 9,000 RPMs. That's what kind of made these cars, or their motors, famous. The AP2s redline at 8,000 RPMs, but you get a little bit more torque throughout the range. A lot of people, including Donut Media, have said the term Americanized. So the AP2s are the more Americanized version of the car. Personally, I was more interested in an AP2, an AP1, but I wasn't going to be, beggars can't be choosers. I was going to pick whatever one was available at the right price and at the right location and with the right setup that I wanted. And at one point it was the highest horsepower per liter of any car ever made, which is not the case anymore. Oh, I just really love driving this car. I mentioned it's a clean title, but isn't a 10 out of 10 pin car. That really didn't bother me. You know, John's S2000, the red AP1 that I did an episode on, low mileage example, 10 out of 10 VIN, paint is near perfect. I really didn't want that to be the car I bought, even though I kind of went back and forth with that for a while, and primarily because I knew I didn't know what I was doing. Driving this thing, I really had to learn, and I wanted to be able to enjoy this car and not worry about it if it gets dinged and scratched. And you know, Kamani makes a good point. It's a Honda. It's not a collectible. It's a Honda. But the truth of it is that they are going up in value, and those level cars at that price point are pretty close to collectible, and they're not going to tank in value. They have dipped now below 30,000 finally for that type of S2000, but I don't think they're going to go down to 20 ever again, and they'll probably only go up over time. So as we continue to see this market correction on cars, it's February here in Idaho. I think anyone asking over $20,000 for an S2000 over 100,000 miles is out of their mind. You're just not going to get that anymore, and we're going to continue to see that kind of come down a little bit. But I think there is a floor. I think you'll never see a good clean S2000 for under 15,000 again, unless it's super high miles or not a 10 out of 10 VIN. I'll definitely be posting more videos of this car. I'm hoping to do videos on things I change on it, if things go wrong, maybe some mountain driving once I can get, shifting down. But for now, thank you for coming along for a little ride in my new fun toy that I plan to enjoy in abundance, and I'm so excited. See ya.